Hey guys, so today we're going to be jumping into another top 10 video, quote unquote top 10 video. The thumbnail says top 10 on it. The title might have top 10 in it, but this is really going to be more so of a tier list video as opposed to a top 10 video. If you guys have watched my prior top 10 videos, you'll see this is definitely going to be very different from those. I was initially going to do this as a normal top 10 video. And I sat down to try and think about how I wanted to structure the rankings, and I think this format is better for the current state of the game. I think if I were to do a normal top 10 list right now, there would be too many shared spots to where it doesn't really make sense to even try and rank the characters with each other. Like I could do it, but I don't think it would have very much substance to it, because I would say, oh well, top slots 10 through 7 are shared, and 6 through 4 are shared, and 3 through 1 are shared. Like, it doesn't make much sense to do it that way. So I think for this specific iteration, we're going to be doing a tier list instead. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and grabbed all the characters that I will be using for this video and put them into this pool, I guess, area down below here. And we're going to pick from these, I believe there's 15 in total, 15 characters here. So we'll use these 15 characters and I'll put them into the individual tiers up here. The tiers will not be ordered. So for example, if I have like Pikkon Gogeta here, and then I have Zamasu here, and then I have like Gohan here, this does not mean Gogeta and Pikkon are better than these other characters. I'm just going to have them in the same tier, and for the most part, they'll be interchangeable within those tiers. So that's the way I'm going to be structuring this video. Although the same, like, you know, typical ways of measuring character performance is I'm going to use that for this one. So every character at 14 stars, best equips, best teams. In terms of the actual rankings themselves, this is based off of their positions and value in the current meta, not specifically how good they are individually. Everything that I'm going to be talking about in this video is based off of my own experience, either fighting against the characters or using the characters. And then I'm probably going to add this additional point moving forward for all these tier lists, or tier list / top 10 videos, because it seems like the rating match proud system is going to be a permanent addition to PvP. But these tier lists / top 10 videos will all be based on standard rating match rules, not proud rules. So just keep in mind moving forward, that's what this is going to be. So I think we'll start, and we'll probably section this video off by tiers. So we're going to have C tier, B tier, A tier, S tier, and Z tier. I don't really like these names, like the classifications of these tiers. Like Z is the best, Z is fine, but like when you see Z tier and when you think about like C tier sounds terrible. Like it's like if you have like Kid Buu in Z tier and then you have like Super 17 in C tier, like it sounds like Super 17 is like terrible compared to Kid Buu, but like I actually think the characters in C tier are not bad. Like they're still in the top 15 of the game. So I'm not really a huge fan of these like classifications. Like it would be like amazing, excellent, very good, great, and like good. Like I don't know, like every character on this list is very good. that's the way it is. So we'll go ahead and start. We'll move into the C tier here, and I'll take the characters that I think belong in C tier and talk about each of them individually. All right, so the first character I'm going to move into C tier is going to be LF Zenkai Full Power Broly. I think this character is pretty good. He's very snowbally. He's always been that way. Even when he first released, when he was a top 3 character in the game, he was very snowbally. The only problem now is he's snowbally, but there's extra conditions on top of him being snowbally. He kind of reminds me a little bit of LF Namek Goku, if I could find him, this one right here, the one that got his unique equipment prior to the anniversary. He's snowbally, but he has a lot of conditions on being snowbally. He doesn't get card draw speed unless the enemy switches or you use a green card or whatever the conditions are. He gets vanish back when the enemy switches. He doesn't have a great cover null condition. It's only on his main ability. So there are a lot of things for an offensive character like this that you would want to see that he just does not have access to a lot of the time, and for that reason I have him in C tier. If you do get snowballing with him and you do get rolling with him and the enemy's switching and you're drawing green cards and you're attacking a lot and you're getting feints with him, because that's a big portion of this character as well, as blue card does feint, he can start to creep up and look very, very powerful. Like he could easily look on par with characters in Z tier. I mean, it's just he can get to that level, but it is very inconsistent and tough to get to that point. So he'll be in CT here. He has a lot of access to Zenkai abilities, which is pretty good. He's actually a really, really strong bench character. I'm not really factoring that into his position on this list, but he's a pretty good Zenkai. I don't really think they did anything too underwhelming with him. They didn't do anything too overwhelming. I think they were very cautious with this character, and the reason why is because he already had access to 2 extremely powerful equips. And they probably didn't want to push him over the edge by giving him too many things there. But Broly's going to be here at C tier. The next character I'm going to put into C tier is going to be Spirit Bomb GT Goku. I think this character has definitely lost a bit of value with the release of the Part 2 characters. Obviously, God Goku being green makes it a bit tougher to use this guy. And then even more so, I would even say than God Goku, is just the fact that Ultimate Gohan is going to utterly destroy this character. Even his blue card is going to not care about his endurance. And I just don't think we're getting to the point now, even how many months, like it's been 5 months since the Spirit Bomb Goku came out. We're now getting to the point where we're seeing the level of offensive power to where this guy really can't hang in there anymore. I mean, I've had this guy at 14 stars since he came out. I have put him on defensive setups on GT with multiple Zenkai buffs, a lot of HP equips, a lot of defense equips, HP Z abilities on the bench, stuff like that. And he really has been a pretty good defensive character throughout this point. But yeah, with the Part 2 characters, I mean, again, Ultimate Gohan just doing as much damage as he does, especially him paired up with Ultra Gohan on the hybrid setup where you just have so much power. It's really tough to get a lot of value out of this guy right now. So I'm going to put him in C tier. With that being said, he can still be a really good character on the GT setup. I think he works very well with Super Baby 2, works really well with Super 17. Remember, they both have the sub-count manipulation when the enemy uses like an ultimate or a Rising Rush. So it could be pretty good there. And of course, he is a Sun Family and a Saiyan character, so you don't necessarily need to run him on GT. He can be a pretty good option for other teams as well, which Sun Family is always going to be the team. I mean, we've got to accept the fact that Sun Family is always going to be like a top 3 team ever. Like it's never going to fall from that spot because they can't stop releasing Gokus and Gohans. Like that's essentially like that's the Dragon Ball Legends code of honor. They must keep releasing Gohans and Gokus at all times. Like so. There's always going to be a Sun Family team, and him being a pretty decent, like sort of like third good option for the team, I think is pretty good for him. Again, he can be pretty good in terms of a sniper. When the enemy has two characters left, you can lock in and use a type neutral ult to try and kill somebody. He removes Vanish with his main ability as the last man, or when the opponent has only one character left. And he actually can do some pretty decent damage if you have a decent setup for him and he has this full gauge built up and stuff like that. So overall, not a bad character. He's just kind of like a third option for a lot of the teams you're going to be using, but a pretty decent third option there. The third character we're going to talk about is going to be Pikkon/Gogeta for C tier. Again, this character, I kind of talked about everything I needed to say about this guy in the prior tier list. Nothing really much else to say about him if you guys watched that list, but the Fusion Warrior team obviously has gained a lot of value from the beginning of this anniversary. I would say that, but the release of Part 2, though, this guy definitely loses a ton of value on Fusion Warriors. You almost never see, at least in my experience when I was playing throughout the entirety of God Rank last season, which is post these characters releasing, the Part 2 characters releasing, I think I maybe fought like one Pikkon. I think I maybe fought like one person using pure Fusion Warriors, and if they were using pure Fusion Warriors, it was with Fusion Zamasu over Pikkon, right? It's just very, very tough to have Pikkon with a ton of, like, have him realize a ton of value on the Fusion Warrior team right now because of the fact that this guy is in, like, I would say 70% of the matches you're fighting in God Rank. Like, this guy is on, like, essentially every single team you're fighting against. So yeah, it's tough for him to get value. Again, I mentioned this in the last video I did, but it's just going to be, as we get stronger characters, it's going to be harder and harder and harder to get his unique age built up. He's not going to be able to get the team heal off. He's not going to be able to get the support off. He will still have his revival, but guess who else is very popular right now? This guy. Now, again, it is definitely worth mentioning that, you know, even if a character has a revival, they are going to get technically punished by Super Vegeta's Rising Rush, but at least they're living. So that does have, you know, there is merit in at least talking about that, but it just feels a lot tougher to use Pikkon Gogeta after the release of Gohan in Part 2. So I'm going to put him down on the list. I've seen a huge drop off on him in terms of usage. And yeah, I don't really feel like he has that great of an impact on the game right now, but if you have the right setup for him on Fusion Warriors, even with all those points being said that I just talked about, he still can be a pretty effective like third character. He's just kind of there to fill the third spot. Again, you can use Fusion Zamasu. Do I really think that's like a great choice? No, because you always want to have that Rising Rush, like Rising Rush survivability option on your team. And if you're running the team of Fusion Zamasu and then both fusing characters together, it's kind of like, well, you don't really have a way to defend against the Rising Rush at all. So it is kind of nice to have Pikkon on there as the third character because he does round out the team fairly well. But in this specific environment, it's tough to find a ton of use for him. So I'm going to put him in C tier. This is a pretty big drop off from the prior list. I think he was like number 9/10 on the list next to Spirit Bomb Goku. So there has been a pretty big shift here, I think, for these characters. But anyway, that's going to be the C tier characters, those 3 characters. Let's move on to B tier. Okay, so moving into B tier, the first character I'm going to pick up for B tier is going to be God Goku. I think this is probably going to be, like, if you're somebody opening this video, this is probably going to be the character you want to see me talk about the most, I would imagine. So I'll give my thoughts on God Goku. I've seen there's been like a gigantic crusade to try and get this guy buffed. In the same way that Goku and Frieza was buffed last year. I think this is a completely different situation. I don't think God Goku is to the level where he needs to be buffed. I don't. I think he's probably not as good as he should be. But does that mean he needs to be buffed? I think, like, I'm just trying to think of the best way to word this. In order for a character to need to be buffed after they initially release, there needs to be something like pretty wrong with the character. I actually think like if we're looking at all the releases this past year, who is the biggest candidate to be buffed? The answer is this guy, Super Vegeta. Super Vegeta has a very big, monstrously glaring issue. Actually, he has multiple. He has very, very bad ki recovery, and his gauge takes way too long to fill up. I actually think because there are multiple big issues with this character, this is the character that if anybody was going to be buffed, it's Vegeta. And the fact that Super Vegeta did not get buffed, I would say definitely this guy's not going to get buffed. There's no way. With this God Goku, I think this is a very, very differently structured character than Vegeta, by the way. This God Goku, to me, at least the impression that I have from using him throughout the entirety of last season and moving into this season, is this character is not going to be someone that carries you to victory most of the time. This is a character that you put on your team as a second or third option to round out the team, which is a pretty good thing for this character considering how many different tags he's on. A lot of different teams. Saiyan, Godki, Sun Family, movies. So he's on a lot of different teams. And that gives him the flexibility to just be included on a lot of those builds, a lot of the popular builds that people are using right now as like a second or third character. AoE green card. He has pretty damn good disrupt with the power down, double card destruction. He's lowering ki. He has endurance, of course. He kind of reminds me of like a semi-modern future Gohan, where he's kind of doing a lot of intangible things that you really don't see in terms of like his offense. Like he can do decent damage. Like he can go type neutral when his gauge is filled up. I have seen some pretty good performance from this character against like Ultimate Gohan. When he has type neutrality, of course. He has type neutral for the first few counts upon switching in defensively as well. And I think one thing that people probably, I haven't really seen many people talk about this, but I've been thinking about this and I don't think we've ever seen this before, but an AoE green card that can be spawned at will via his main ability. The reason why that's so strong is because it essentially acts as a vanish removal, right? If you're in a position where the enemy can't they can't get at like you're in melee range or something, and you go for a tackle, the enemy strikes you, like you're in that sort of position where you pretty much get a guaranteed combo started if you have an AoE green card. If you're in a position like that, you essentially can use your main ability to act as a vanish removal because you spawn an AoE green card and the enemy can't do anything about it. So it's pretty strong. The fact that you can chain it into the ultimate's good. Gets covered all on the AoE green card. I don't think this is a character that you're going to be like, oh my god, I 1v3'd this guy's whole team with God Goku, look how broken he is. He's more of a character that's going to be, spawning you cards, type neutral, disrupts, like a lot of these intangible things that he's really good at are what give him value as opposed to a lot of these other characters. Like, for example, we could even take a look at like someone who's going to be very high up on this list in Super Vegito. Like, this guy is doing way more intangible things than Super Vegito's doing, but obviously Super Vegito is a different, like, he's a different designed character. This character is going to be a character that's going to be soloing teams and single-handedly winning you fights, but that's not really this guy's role, right? When they were sitting down to design LF God Goku, the minute they came up with what they wanted this guy to do, he was not going to be top 1 in the game. I don't really think, like, this is like saying Red Pan. Like, Red Pan never had, at least I guess based off of the way that I see the game functioning, Red Pan never had the potential to be top 1 in the game because she doesn't have the carrying potential to do that, right? God Goku, I would argue, is in a similar spot where he wasn't designed with that carry potential innately. Instead, he's more of a team player and helping you do things that a lot of other characters won't do naturally. He's kind of like Blue 17 almost. It's kind of a weird comparison to make, but Blue 17 is not going to be carrying you. Blue 17 is going to be contributing towards your team being more cohesive, and that kind of does feel to me like what God Goku does in a way. So I feel comfortable with him being in this spot. Again, it's probably a little bit lower than most people were hoping for, and I definitely do think that when we're looking back at even last year's anniversary, there was a big push after Goku and Frieza released and they got buffed. There was a big push for Orange Piccolo to be buffed last year. I really was against that. I think there is a better argument for God Goku to be buffed than Orange Piccolo. I think this character probably does feel a little bit worse than Orange Piccolo does, because Orange Piccolo was clearly not going to be a carry character. Like, it was very obvious. Orange Piccolo was a revival character. He was supporting, he was healing. This guy is not supporting, this guy is not healing, but he does do a lot of other things. But on the other hand, he's, you know, he should be doing more damage, he should be tanking better, he should be doing a bunch of things better. But the one glaring issue with this character is just he doesn't get ki on entry, and so I have had experiences where he doesn't have enough ki to continue combos a lot of time, especially for fighting characters like Ultra Gohan, who remove your ki whenever you hit them. Could be an issue, but other than that one problem, I don't really think there's like anything where it's like, oh my god, he needs to be adjusted or whatever. Right? I don't think it's that bad. Would have been nice if he was better. I would completely agree with that, and I think there is an argument. Well, I think there's a better argument that this guy would be buffed over like Orange Piccolo last year. So those are my thoughts. Do I think he needs to get buffed? No. But I think he could have been better for sure. I'm not saying that he's like, oh, he's completely fine, doesn't need to be like, you know, if this was a pre-release character, I wouldn't be saying like, oh my god, there's nothing we need to do to change this character. Like, I would have personally made a few tweaks here and there, but is he that bad that he needs to be buffed? I would say no. So there's God Goku. Let's move on to the next character in the B tier, which is going to be Nappa Vegeta. So Nappa Vegeta, I guess I would say the bigger problem I have with this guy right now is that there's just not very many ways to run them. You can kind of just throw him on like a Saiyan team and leader slot for the revival, which could be pretty good, but there's like not a lot of synergy between this guy and a lot of other characters right now. I don't know. Like, the difference between like this character and Pikkon / Gogeta, because this character is like, how many months old? Like 2? This character's like 2 months old, right? Like, I think they're about to be 2 months old. Gogeta, they're a very similar character, right? These two right here. The difference between Gogeta and Pikkon as opposed to Vegeta and Nappa is Gogeta and Pikkon provide a lot more utility for the rest of the team, right? These guys are providing more green cards than Vegeta and Nappa. Pikkon and Gogeta are providing the heal as opposed to Vegeta and Nappa. Pikkon and Gogeta are providing support to the team as opposed to Vegeta and Nappa. Pikkon and Gogeta, is there Disrupt better? I don't know, it's close. So I'd say as a team player, the Pikkon Gogeta character probably feels a little bit stronger and more valuable than Vegeta and Nappa do, but Vegeta and Nappa as an individual solo character are better. The Nappa side is able to tank and survive way, way better than Pikkon is, which right now I think does have a lot of value, because if you just get killed by Super Vegito without him having to rush a revival character, like, you're in a very, very bad spot. So it is very important for like the pre-revival version of either of these characters to be able to survive just like a standard combo from like one of these really strong characters. So that's really good that Nappa's able to do that. I think the Vegeta side of this character is pretty good. There's nothing that like jumps off of their kit at me. If I'm like reading through their kit, I'm like, oh my god, like this is broken, or oh my god, this is terrible. Like they're just all around a very solid unit. And because they have a revival, they'll probably continue to be pretty flexible moving forward. I think the problem right now with them is just they don't really have like the greatest team setups, because they're technically a blast unit. So you're looking for like powerful opponent and blast characters, or Saiyan blast characters, which you can probably get away with on a few setups. But right now there's no specific setup that they're going to be on where it's like this character is going to shine like a lot. And I honestly would probably say that's probably where this character is going to remain for a while. Because they were a revival character, I could see them aging pretty well. But I don't really see this as a character that's going to be like, okay, we got a huge buff for Vegeta and Nappa, now all of a sudden they're here. Like, I don't see that happening ever for this character. I think this character will age well, but they'll probably be hanging around like C/B tier for a little bit. That's really what I see with this character right now. And then the third character we're going to bring into B tier is Super 17. Kind of a similar thing with Super 17 that I just talked about with Vegeta and Nappa, just the fact that they don't really have Super 17 doesn't really have like the greatest team build. I think, you know, him on GT can be pretty good, but GT is not like the craziest team ever right now. It's still good. I think GT you can definitely still get to like super high ranks of GT, and it can perform very, very well. The one thing about GT is it is pretty consistent. I don't really think there's ever going to be a ton of matches where it's like, oh, well, this didn't happen, so we lose, right? GT is pretty consistent. Super 17 is a very consistent character because you almost always know what's going to happen. So there's that. I think powerful opponent has, you know, recently gotten Kid Buu. We'll talk about Kid Buu in a little bit, but Super 17... Kid Buu, and I guess you would use Vegeta and Nappa. Like, how good is that team? It's fine. It's definitely not bad. But like, are you really going to use that team against like Sun Family? I guess you can get away with it, but it's no one's supporting on the team. No one's healing on the team. Like, there's no glue character. There's no Spirit Bomb GT Goku. There's no Gogeta. Like, Vegeta and Nappa have a revive, but they're not really providing anything for the team. You know what I'm talking about? So. Yeah, Super 17 obviously still really strong. I think this is a character that, as opposed to what I just talked about with Vegeta and Nappa, Super 17, if he gets like a really, really significant buff, maybe can move back up to like A tier. Probably not S tier. I don't know if... Are we going to get to the point? Like, he would need to get like... There would need to be like an ultra green GT character or something. And then I could see him maybe moving back up to S, because that would cripple this character a lot, which is the main issue with Super 17 right now. Is Super 17 really hasn't fallen off that much in terms of what he's trying to do, but this character completely fodderizes. Like, I don't really use that term lightly, but this guy actually fodderizes Super 17. Like, it's the hardest counter to Super 17 we've seen so far. So we would need like some ultra powerful green GT unit to come out, and that would help, I think, move 17 up a little bit on this list. But those are going to be the three characters that I have in B tier. Let's go ahead and move on to A tier now. All right, so we're going to move on to A tier next. I'm going to grab Kid Buu. This is going to be like an asterisk character because he kind of just came out like 2 days ago. And I initially wasn't even going to include Kid Buu on here, but after using him, I definitely think he deserves to be on the list, like, overall. So I did some extra videos with Kid Buu. I did some off-camera fights with Kid Buu. Fought a few people with just him on like different setups. And I think this is probably where he's going to land, but it's really tough to say so early after he came out exactly where he'll fit on the list. So I'm going to put an asterisk next to Kid Buu because he could either go up or go down. I'm not sure. I don't think there's going to be some like massive epiphany that I have where it's like, oh my god, actually he's this good, or like actually he's this good, or actually he doesn't even belong on here. Like, I think he's probably going to fit somewhere around like A tier. A tier, like if we're talking about specific rankings, like maybe he'll be like low S tier. I think somewhere in here is really good for him, which is a very, very good sign because this is a character that came out in what, 2021? I think it was 2021. I think it was Legends Fest, then Future Gohan, then Kid Buu. Because I think Kid Buu came out in February, and then I think we got the Zenkai for LF Super Saiyan 3 Goku, the green one. But this is one of the older characters that had not gotten a Zenkai until this point. So Kid Buu is yeah, Kid Buu is very, very good. His damage is really, really high. He has a lot of the same he feels kind of similar to when he first dropped, in the fact that like if you're fighting against him, you kind of feel like you're even scared to try to attack him because of how fast he gets his Vanish back from just naturally, and also from his green card. His damage is really, really high. He can get, I've had matches where he's had like 4 times card draw speed with his green cards. Obviously there are a few flaws with him. Number one, he doesn't really have great defenses. I mean, they gave him endurance, which is really nice. And the card draw speed down disrupt is pretty powerful. Every time he gets hit, he lowers the enemy's card draw speed for 3 counts. It's pretty good. But I found that he can get incinerated by just like if this guy just like if you're fighting like a decently highly starred purple Ultimate Gohan, he has like a Zenkai buff or something. I don't know, he's on like a decent setup, and you just decide as this guy to just randomly throw out a blue card at long range, and you get caught with that as Kid Buu, like you could very easily get one shot by just a random blue card from this guy, which nullifies his endurance and stuff. But so that's a kind of an issue. His bulk is not super high. He doesn't have sustained damage cut penetration anywhere, which I think is a pretty big thing for a lot of offensive characters these days. I was actually kind of surprised to look at his ultimate and not see them give him any kind of sustained damage cut penetration, because I think like Zamasu was like 100%. Like it's a huge difference. So that's a thing as well. And the fact that he doesn't have a cover change is a pretty big issue as well. I mean, he's just really, really old. Like he's very old. They didn't give him a cover change when he came out, and they weren't obviously going to like do a new animation for a cover change for this character. I haven't really seen any people talk about that, but it is an issue not having a cover change, and then also on top of that, not really having any disrupt on cover change either. So this guy cover changes in, and like he's doing nothing. He's doing nothing to stop the combo besides having the card draw speed debuff when he gets hit. So I mean, that is the thing that matters, because if you take a look at like every character, essentially all the good characters in the game have some way to stop combos, or had they have a cover change. Like every character, this is the only character on this list that doesn't have a cover change, right? Yeah, it is. He is. So, but I think he's still very good. He can spawn a lot of greens, and the damage is high. Team wise, I'm kind of not sure yet. I haven't even tested the Majin Buu team after this guy's come out. I've used him on Region. I've used him on Powerful Opponent. Again, I think you can do a team of like these 3 together. Kid Buu, Vegeta, and Super 17 could work pretty well. But you know, when you take a look at this guy's teams, the fact that he is a villain character, a Powerful Opponent character, they're just not matching up to like Sun Family or hybrids, or you know, like a mixture of those two teams, like God Key or whatever. Like these really high powered, high tier, top tier meta defining teams, like they're not matching with those, so that could be an issue as well. But I feel pretty comfortable with him being around like A tier. If you're ranking characters like maybe low S tier, somewhere in there, he's very, very good. But again, I'll put an asterisk next to Kid Buu because I have used every other character on this list like 4 times more than him. So we'll put a pin in this for now. Maybe we'll revisit this in the next list we do. All right, the next character is going to be Super Baby 2. I think this character has definitely gained some value now that we've seen how good this guy is. Again, it's going to be a similar thing with this guy with a lot of these other villain characters. It's just they don't like, he's a Saiyan, so you can kind of get away with putting him on like a Sun Family team in the leader slot potentially, but that does affect like the equipment you can use and stuff like that. So we'll see. I think this guy is going to age fairly well. We'll see. I mean, how well is he gonna age, actually? Because it's all gonna depend on his gauge, which so far hasn't been an issue. I mean, when did this guy this guy came out in March? April? No, I think it was March, right? This guy came out in March. Yeah, March. And it's now the end of June. So we're like 3.5 months since he's come out, and I feel like he's been aging pretty well so far. We'll see. I think as soon as we start seeing like if Gohan wasn't purple, and even if he wasn't red, like just like a type neutral color, like if he was like blue, this Gohan, would Baby get affected negatively? Probably. Like, this Gohan is now at the point where he's just doing so much damage that it's hard. It's getting harder and harder to take advantage of his gauge. Right? We're eventually going to get to the point where Baby takes one hit, even at like high stars with Zenkai buffs, and he's not really going to be able to just sit there and fill his gauge up without being dead. So at that point, it's going to be a lot tougher to run this guy. I think we got lucky with Gohan being purple. Well, Baby got lucky with this Gohan being purple. I think when it comes to the Part 3 Ultra, that's when we'll see how well this guy's really going to age. Because if the Part 3 Ultra comes out and he's starting with like 300% damage, and one strike card is dealing 2/3 of this guy's health, then he's going to be like worthless. So when it comes to characters that have gauges like this is probably the character that's aged the best, besides like Gogeta. But Ultra Gogeta Blue's gauge is kind of different than this. It's not exactly the same. This guy has like a similar gauge to like Ultra Broly. Right? Ultra Broly is like the saddest character of all time, because Ultra Broly came out and he was actually really good. And then Blue Beast came out. And Blue Beast was like the strongest character of all time in this game. And because the way the gauge worked, where you had to sit there and take hits, Beast Gohan just came in and like flicked him and he like got one shot. So we'll see if that's going to be the similar thing that happens with Baby. But I think so far, Baby is in a really good spot right now. We have a lot, I don't want to say a lot of purple characters, but we have a few good, really good purple characters. Vegeta and Nappa, not really super common to encounter them, but they are there. Golden Frieza is semi-common, and then this guy is super common. So, in terms of his spot right now, I think he's in a pretty good spot. Also, Fusion Zamasu is not mega common, so there aren't really a ton of reds. Super 17 is also not that common right now. Nullifies endurance on his ultimate, which you can also double up with him locking in the opponent with his full gauge up. He nullifies endurance with his blue card when his gauge is built up. So overall, I think Baby's in a really, really good spot right now, and I feel pretty comfortable with him being sort of like in the mix with these A tier characters. The last character we're going to pull for A tier is Gogeta Blue. I did a very long discussion about this character in my prior tier list, so I'm not going to go in too much detail here about him, but I think the assault chain mechanic should have been better. I think the fact that it essentially forces you to substitute card draw speed for cover null when most characters in the game have both is not good. Right? Because that's essentially what you have to do. You have to be clicking strike cards in succession to use the assault chain mechanic. But if you do that, you have 0 card draw speed. Because card draw speed only triggers when you're not attacking. Whether you're sidestepping, whether you're charge stepping, that's when the card draw speed activates. So if you're just continuously doing the assault chain mechanic, then you literally have 0 card draw speed. Like, actually 0. So, and then besides that, he has no way of getting cover null. So this is like kind of a weird situation where it's like you have to sacrifice card draw speed to get cover null, or you sacrifice cover null to get card draw speed. And you take a look at like every other character on here, and they have both, right? Super 17 doesn't need to sacrifice card draw speed to get cover null, and doesn't need to sacrifice cover null to get he just has both. He just gets both, right? So yeah, I that's a little bit weird to me. I think this guy is okay. So here's why he's an A tier, not higher. I think this guy shares like almost all the same teams as Ultra UI Goku. So I'm finding it hard to like, if I'm thinking of a team to make and I have access to both this character and Ultra UI Goku, like what team would I prioritize Gogeta on as opposed to UI? Maybe like just Fusion Warriors. Like that's like the only tag that this guy has that UI doesn't have. But if I'm deciding between, okay, do I want to put Gogeta on my team as the yellow character, or UI on my team as the yellow character, I'm just gonna go with UI. UI is a safer option by far. UI is helping the team out more with the subcount manipulation and green card generation. UI is helping you stall more with his gauge. UI has the lock-in, which a lot of times can just secure you a kill very early on in the fight. Just a free and cheap way to get a kill early. I just feel like UI is just, he does what this character wants to do, but better. A lot of times UI can sort of fulfill the role of Art's of Assault Chain better than Assault Chain, right? You lock in Ultra Gohan and then you just kill him. You just kill him, right? Who cares about punching through Gohan's gauge when you could just kill him with UI Goku's lock-in? So I think the comparison to make here is like Gogeta is really, really good, but I just don't. I have a hard time finding like places where I want to use him because I'd rather just use UI. I think UI is just a better character, and unfortunately, they're on like almost all the same teams. So that's how I feel about this character. I mean, he does definitely fare well against this guy, Ultimate Gohan, who's a very common character to encounter right now. But so does this guy. I'd rather just run this guy. So we're going to put him here. Certainly a really good unit. I've had a lot of fun actually using this guy. I used him in my God Rank Grand last season. No Zenkai buffs, and he was performing incredibly well. So really, really good character. It's harder for me to move him up here more in this current meta. We'll see. I don't know. The question becomes, like, does this guy ever see more value than UI? I don't see it. I don't see this guy ever seeing more value in this game than UI. But maybe they'll figure out a way. Maybe they'll just give us like 60 million characters that have strike coverage, unique gauge or something. That would suck. But I mean, this guy would get a lot of value from that. All right, so that's going to cover A tier characters. Let's move on to the S tier next. All right, moving on to S tier. We're going to go with Golden Frieza here. The reason why I have Golden Frieza a little bit lower on this list than the prior list, again, just is going to be teams. I think when you look at individuality, is Golden Frieza as good as every character on this list? Or if maybe not just even straight up the best character on this list individually? But yeah, I think he has the possibility to you can make that argument for sure. I think Golden Frieza has the potential to be the single best character in the game right now, just individually. But I think team-wise, he does get hurt a little bit because, again, the same thing I've been mentioning with like every single powerful opponent / villain character, they just don't have the teams to stand up to Sun Family, Godki, Hybrid Saiyans, those kinds of teams. So Golden Frieza, I think if we end up, because what they usually do is they usually end up giving us no villains during Anniversary and Legends Festival. So what always happens is we end up getting a lot of villain releases outside of those big celebrations. So when it comes to like, January through April or like August through October, like those two windows where we're not in the middle of big celebrations, that's when they typically give us tons of villains or really good villain characters, right? That's where we got Vegeta and Nappa. That's where we got Baby. That's where we got Ultra Golden Frieza. So I think there's a possibility that in between Anniversary and Legends Festival, so like again, like end of July through end of October-ish, we could end up getting some really, really powerful villains that could really help like Golden Frieza or Baby on this list, or Super 17, stuff like that. But we'll see. I think right now Golden Frieza is in a pretty decent spot. I don't think like he's too good. I don't think he's not good enough. I think he's just good. He's very, very solid. You could definitely make a team work with like Golden Frieza and Baby and like Fusion Zamasu, who's also going to be on this list in just a little bit. And then we'll see what happens as we move out of Anniversary, but I could very easily see this guy moving up on this list. I don't really see this guy being able to move down. He's too good. He's too good to be moving down anywhere, at least for now. It's very possible we get more power. I mean, we are going to be getting more power creep as we move out of the Anniversary, but I mean, the comeback mechanic is just so beyond anything we've seen. Like, I think the comeback mechanic is probably just the single most broken mechanic in this game. I think it's a revive that does half your health. Like, what is that? What the hell is that? So yeah, we'll put him here, and we'll see where he moves up and down on the next. Again, probably not down, but he's probably gonna at least stay the same. All right, next character is going to be Ultra UI Goku. Again, I sort of talked about what I needed to with this guy when we discussed Gogeta a few minutes ago, but Ultra UI Goku, I think, at least personally, is just a better version of this character. There are certain traits that Gogeta has that I think could, you could argue, oh, it's better than this guy. Like the full heal from the fusion obviously is really strong. They get Cover Null obviously way more easily when they're pre-fused than Goku does. All you got to do is tag once. Goku can get Cover Null outside of the cover change nullification mechanic with using green cards, but I wouldn't really call that like mega consistent. The first one, sure, because he can generate one from dodging, but after that, I don't, because even when you're looking at like the best Sun family teams, like the best Sun family teams right now are Blast, Ultra Gohan, Purple Gohan, and this guy. There's a very strong argument for that to be the best team in the game right now. Ultra UI Goku, Ultra Gohan, and then Purple Ultimate Gohan. That is a very, 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 very annoying and tough team to deal with. And it's a Blast team. So we'll see. I think this guy's probably just got too many mechanics to where Gogeta can never like overtake this guy on a list. I think this guy will always be more valuable than Gogeta, unfortunately. It's kind of sad, but yeah. I'm having UI Goku here in the middle of S tier. The next character I'm going to grab is Fusion Zamasu. So we kind of already know what Z tier. So I'm just going to put the Z tier characters here and we'll talk about them in a second. Just to reiterate, these are not ordered. The tiers are just what they are. You can interchange any character within the tiers with each other. I think that's fine. Fusion Zamasu is one of the best Zenkais we've ever gotten. This guy is probably right now the most scary character to fight against, which I guess kind of does work thematically. At any point you can die to this guy. Like it doesn't matter what typing you are. It doesn't matter if you have a revive. It doesn't matter if you have a endurance. Well, I guess it doesn't matter if you revive or come back because you cannot die, right? But it doesn't matter if you're an endurance character. It doesn't matter if you have type advantage. Like from any point in the fight, this guy could end up green carding you and then type neutral ulting you and killing you. He can blue card you for 90% of your health, then draw a green card and kill you. His strike can do 60% of your health. This is a dumb character. They were not holding back at all with this guy's Zenkai Awakening. Like you could even look at like all like the new unique abilities they gave him, and it's like, what the hell? He's stacking all the damage against Saiyans. Like his ultimate hits. Is his ultimate the hardest hitting ult in the game? It's him or Golden Frieza, right? Hardest hitting ults. Because doesn't this guy have 100% sustained damage cut penetration? Gohan's probably up there. Yeah, it's probably Gohan, Golden Frieza, and Zamasu, the 3 hardest hitting ultimates in the game. I probably would give it to Frieza. It does AoE damage too. But yeah, this guy is crazy. And then the fact that he can kind of snowball off of killing opponents too, because he destroys their hand, he gets Vanish back when they switch, and he removes all your ki, right? When he lands the ult too, he can remove all your ki, so this guy's really strong. I think even the thing that made me pretty like, okay, so there's like a level where I was expecting this guy to be good at after his Zenkai Awakening, and I was like, okay, yeah, he's definitely insanely good offensively, but the thing that sort of pushed him over the edge for me is his defensive utility. You could even go back to my like breakdown of him, and you could even go back to my initial showcase of him where I'm like, he's probably going to be a glass cannon, and that is certainly not the case. He is able to tank hits extremely well. He is lowering the opponent's ki whenever they attack, which actually does matter. He is healing a ton, and I think it actually did end up giving a lot of extra value to his unique equipment. Right, when this guy's unique equipment initially dropped, it completely contradicted what he was trying to do. He was a glass cannon on release, like straight up. He did not leverage his health pool whatsoever. Like he just died, right? When this guy dropped, he was really, really good, but much like every other character in the game, he got incinerated by Zenkai Red Gohan. Right now, I wouldn't really say there's a ton of characters that can just come in and incinerate this guy. I mean, the Super Vegito probably is the only one. Purple Ultimate Gohan probably could if he just catches him with like a raw blue card or something, but this guy actually does have some bulk to him, and that does add a lot of value to the unique equipment because of all the healing you can get from it. So I think they've actually designed this guy to be pretty nice. I don't really have too many complaints about him at all. I don't think I could like open up his kit and say like, oh, well, he actually needed this or he actually needed this, but overall, really strong character that I think it fits really well in this S tier ranking here. So those are the S tier characters. Let's start talking about the Z tier now. All right, so Z tier. I'm sure everyone's shocked to see 2 Gohans in Z tier here. Ultra Gohan, I mean, we don't really need to go into too much depth about him, right? I think he actually did get a lot of help with Purple Gohan releasing, and the reason why is because Purple Gohan has the buff removal. So if we're fighting against like a Super Vegito or something like that, or even just like a character that uses an ultimate, for example, you could swap into Ultra Gohan and he could live. Like Super Vegito Rising Rushes, Ultimate Gohan's going to remove his endurance removal, and Ultra Gohan's going to survive. Same thing with like Fusion Zamasu. Fusion Zamasu, I think, actually probably did get hurt a little bit from this Ultimate Gohan coming out, because Fusion Zamasu, one of the things that he does is he does gain 30 seconds of endurance nullification from his main ability. If he tries to go for a Rising Rush against Gohan, he will simply not have endurance nullification anymore. Even if he tries to go for like an ultimate or a blue card too, he won't be able to kill or punch through the endurance there. So Ultimate Gohan sort of acting as like a shield for this character can be pretty impressive. I'll always make the same statement about this character that I still don't see anybody talking about, which is how incredibly dumb the armor break mechanic is. I don't think it should exist. I think, like, if I'm looking through all of the things on here, there are only two things I would say that shouldn't exist. Like, every single character's mechanics. What mechanics on here shouldn't exist? There are two. The first one is Golden Frieza's comeback. I think is actually too good. And then the second thing is armor break. Armor break shouldn't exist. It's stupid. It is beyond stupid. And the fact that anyone on the team can use it means that you actually can't, like, you just have to assume that you can't use blast armor, which at this point, a good character comes out, odds are they're going to have blast armor, right? Most good characters have blast armor, at least new characters that come out. So the fact that you're just straight up removing that from their arsenal means that you have a lot more freedom to play the game. Quick attack, like this is a better version almost of Super 17's quick attack blast strategy, because this guy has endurance, so they can't even rush. So yeah, you guys know how powerful and how dumb Ultra Gohan is. I'm not going to go into excruciating detail about him. Super Vegito, probably, I guess I should talk about this now. This will sort of pour into this Gohan as well. The reason why I'm going to put Super Vegito up here, other than the fact that he's really good, is you would think that this purple Ultimate Gohan having the endurance, what do I even want to say? So Ultimate Gohan deletes Vegito's endurance nullification buff when he Rising Rushes. So you would think that this guy would have a lot of extra value against Super Vegito, but the problem is Super Vegito does so much damage, and Ultimate Gohan's one flaw is that his defense is not, like, incredible, that a lot of times what will happen is Super Vegito will just normally combo through this guy's first life. Like, this guy would just get 100 to 0'd by Super Vegito's normal combo. And then at that point, you can just get rushed. So it's pretty tough to be able to survive and make value out of that buff removal when this guy Rising Rushes, because a lot of times you just simply cannot survive, like, the combo from him. So I guess that would just factor into how good his damage is. The fact that he gets Rising Rushes so fast, it's just like, it feels like a lot of times you're getting free kills with this guy. I think going into part 2, I guess before part 2 actually dropped, we saw a lot of more Pycons. We saw a lot more Vegetas. I would also argue that we saw a lot more Golden Friezas. So, like, all these characters that could survive Super Vegito's Rising Rush, we've seen less and less of them as part 2 came out. So that is definitely something that has, I think, given a bit more value to this character in terms of his Rising Rush just being that much more deadly, right? I mean, Zamasu's not living, like, Zamasu gets disintegrated by Transformed Vegito. There isn't really, like, a character on this list that is able to just, like, swap in against this guy and be like, I'm good. I mean, the only one who could do that is, like, Baby. Baby is, like, the only character that could swap in against this guy and just, like, sit there and eat his hits and then just get his gauge, and, like, that's the end of the combo. Other than Baby, yeah, like, who else can, I mean, this guy maybe? But the problem is, like, this guy swaps in and he just gets Rising Rushed, right? And this guy does kill Dragon Balls. I guess that could be interesting, but yeah, Vegito, you guys know how stupid he is at this point. He's a part 1 character. We fought him enough times. We know how good he is. And then I guess the final character we'll talk about here is going to be the purple Ultimate Gohan. I don't really know what they were thinking with him. I think his blue card is way, 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 way over the top. I didn't think they needed to give him... I didn't think they needed to give that blue card endurance nullification. I think if I was going to like tweak a part of his kit, I wouldn't give that endurance nullification, because the only reason why Revival UI Goku's blue card has endurance nullification is because the LF is tied to the blue card. Ultimate Gohan has an ultimate. And by the way, his ultimate is like one of the most single broken things in the entire game. Remember when Dragon Fist, Super Saiyan 3 LF Dragon Fist Goku first dropped for the 4th anniversary? He basically one-shot everything in the game. But in order to get to that point, you had to go through like a quest to get his gauge filled up. Once you got his gauge filled up and you had that one-shot potential like available, he was killing pretty much anything. Like when he first dropped that Dragon Fist, he was crazy. But you had to work for it. You had to really invest like the first third of the fight into just attacking with him. And then he would get the gauge built up, and then you'd have to get priority again, and then you'd be able to get the one shot off. Gohan doesn't have to do any work to get the same outcome. This guy, all this guy does is pop the main ability, and he has Dragon Fist's fully built up mechanic. As a modern character, he removes the enemy vanish, he goes type neutral, and his ultimate hits for 4, 5, 6, 7 million damage. So like, what do you do? Like, literally, what do you do? Ironically, the only character that can like sort of counter that is this Gohan, because if you drop combo against this guy and this guy has a blue card, he can actually counter the ultimate. And then the other character who can counter this guy is himself, because he removes buffs. So if you drop combo against an opponent, Ultimate Gohan, you're not going to be able to nullify their endurance with this. One dynamic I really don't like is the fact that obviously these characters are going to be using the same team. One dynamic I really don't like is the fact that like this team is going to be countering itself. Because in order to counter Ultra Gohan, this is the best character in the game against Ultra Gohan. By far. There's nothing that comes close to how good this guy is against Ultra Gohan, because you just kill him via the blue card, because for whatever reason it nullifies endurance. That is the issue. His blue card nullifying endurance when his gauge becomes an attack style gauge is the issue, because once you get into a position in this game where the only way to counter a character is like via their own team or via themselves, that's where you get into this standstill when it comes to like team building and characters. And this is the same issue we saw last year with Goku and Frieza. The Frieza side of Goku and Frieza was like basically the only character in the entire game besides like Majin Vegeta, who was never ran. The only character in the entire game who had uncancelable cover change nullification. The reason why that mattered is because what that did is it did not allow the opponent's Goku and Frieza to counter Rising Rush. So the only counter to Goku and Frieza's unique gauge last year was Goku and Frieza. And so what that means is everybody just use Goku and Frieza. So I think as we get deeper into part 2, before part 3 drops, like I think this PvP season, we will only, like when we get into like the god ranks of this, and we kind of did start to see this last season even, and I would argue this is a good meta. This is the only problem I really have with this meta. You really are only going to start to see these characters, like these two Gohans here. And again, I think the best team in the game is probably these 3 up here, or these 2 Gohans plus UI Goku. Because this is more of the blast-centric team, and then UI Goku's lock-in is really strong against both these characters. So it's going to become a thing where it's like, oh, well, the best combo or the best counter to this team is the same exact team build. And if that's the case, why would you run any other team, right? So I don't like that dynamic at all. I think they just weren't thinking when they designed this guy. I think his design is pretty poor, honestly, and can't really deny the fact that he's not incredibly busted though. So that's why he's in Z tier. This character's ridiculous. He has some disrupt too. When he swaps in, he kills I think a card and lowers ki. He has a ridiculous green card getting his vanish back. He's able to spawn infinite green. His blue card is like just a 2 times better version of like Blue 17's blue card, who already was already a really good blue card. Yeah, overall just a ridiculously busted character. I think all 3 of these characters in Z tier are ridiculous. They all bring something different to the table, and they all bring something that no matter what team you're using, you have to be aware of what all 3 of these characters are doing at all times. Like these are the true, I think, meta-defining characters right now, which is why I'm going to have them in Z tier. So this is essentially the rankings as I see it right now. We have Z, S, A, B, and C tier. You can interchange any of the positions within each tier. It doesn't really matter. You could put you here, you could put you here, you could do this, you could do this. Doesn't matter. I think that's essentially the point of why I made this a tier list as opposed to just a ranking video. So we'll see how the Part 3 Ultra changes things. I think I actually completely expect the same thing to happen that happened during Legends Fest. The meta was in a pretty good spot during Legends Fest until Ultra UI came out, and then the entire meta became awful. I think the same thing is going to happen this anniversary. I hope it doesn't. But I think it will, because that's what Ultras do in this game. So let me know down below if you agree or disagree with any of the placements on this list. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next one.